Maxwell, can you hear me? Maxwell, can you hear me? Okay. Lionel, you can hear me, yeah? Lovely. John, you're in, you're good. Great. We're about 2 minutes out. Maxwell, can you hear me? Maxwell, can you hear us? He might have his volume down on his phone. We're going to be a go in 2 minutes. There we go. Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to International Sculpture Day in Orange County. International Sculpture Day is a worldwide celebration event that furthers the International Sculpture Center's mission, that advances the creation and the understanding of sculpture and its unique and vital contribution to society. International Sculpture Day occurs on the last Saturday of April every year, and anyone and any organization with an appreciation and a commitment to the field of sculpture is invited to participate. I'm Vicki Landon. I am the administrator for Orange County's Office of Arts and Cultural Affairs, and I am here today with some of the artists represented in our 10th anniversary exhibition of Sculpture on the Lawn. That includes Maxwell Hartley, John Bannon, and Lionel T. Dean. So established in 2015, the Sculpture on the Lawn program was designed by Orange County's Public Art Review Board, and it promotes the inclusion of public art throughout Orange County to benefit and educate residents while enhancing the visual landscape with a diverse range of styles and themes and artists. And this initiative really provides our community with access to really world-class art in public spaces. So Sculpture on the Lawn is an international art competition, and since its inception, Orange County residents have seen sculptures from Central Florida, from US-based artists, but also Ukraine, Italy, Greece, Turkey, France, Colombia, Denmark, Spain, and the UK. Every day and every night, any Orlando and Orange County resident can stop by, visitors can stop by and avail themselves of the sculptures that sit on the lawn in front of our administration center downtown. And it's seen by approximately 10,000 individuals daily. So I am very excited to be here today with a number of the artists that are represented to show you a little bit more about the sculptures that are on the lawn and how you can see them. So first, let's take a look at Melt Piece by Maxwell Hartley.
Melt Piece by Maxwell Hartley out of DeLand, Florida. What's really cool about Melt Piece is it shows the multiple different states of matter, that you've got a solid or frozen existence that is now crumbled and breaking and crackling and melting down into this pool on this concrete base, which was constructed just for this exhibition. What I love about this particular resin piece and all of the angles and the folds and the surfaces in it is that it reflects and refracts so much light for people that are walking by. It catches the sunrise, it catches the sunset, and every time you look at it, every different time of day is a different experience. So this is a living, breathing, organic piece that encourages you to come back and see it time and time again. So this is Melt Piece by Maxwell Hartley of DeLand, Florida.
So I'm very excited to share Maxwell Hartley's Melt piece with you today. And we do have Maxwell with us here to answer a couple questions and talk a little bit about his piece. So Maxwell, if you'll join me on screen, welcome. Tell me a little bit about Melt piece and what it means to you. Oh, Maxwell, you got your volume up so you can hear us? Oh no, we may have lost him. Let's give him just a moment to come back in. Maxwell, can you hear us? How about now, Maxwell? Have we got you? Tell us a little bit about your piece. All right. We may have to come back to Maxwell in a moment and give him a chance to troubleshoot. So let's go ahead and we'll move on for now to our next piece, which is Drop by John E. Bannon of Chicago, Illinois.
This is Drop by John Bannon of Chicago, Illinois. And Drop represents that very final precarious moment right before a droplet of dew or water falls from the top of a blade of grass. So you can see here we have this beautiful, large at scale blade of grass. It's really textured, really large in size. And at the very top of it, we have this resin water droplet that is showing this sort of refracted upside down skyline for the city of downtown Orlando. Scale because of its sense of movement, and you can really catch this feeling that at any moment this water droplet's about ready to fall down onto you. So this again is Drop by John Bannon of Chicago, Illinois.
Johnny Bannon, Jeb, welcome.
Hey.
Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Sure thing. Happy International Sculpture Day.
Happy International Sculpture Day. Will you tell us a little bit about Drop and your process behind making it?
Sure. I try to use a different perspective on everyday things, but present it in a unique way. And this kind of always interests me, optics and how that how it magnifies and transforms when you're looking through it, like the magnification of a water droplet. And as you described, I like how it sort of creates an atmosphere when it's just about to, looks like it's just about to break free, and it's sort of like it kind of has this calm before the storm sort of idea to it when it's just about to drop. So I use that as a kind of a metaphor for what can be applied to like the current status of the global climate, I guess, where it feels like it's in a precarious situation. But so that's kind of how it works. I worked in the optics and the beauty of nature with kind of a commentary on the environment.
That's fantastic. Now, I remember reading in your artist bio that you incorporate principles of Gestalt psychology in your work. Would you expand a little bit on that for us?
Sure. I mean, I don't know if it's so much in this piece, but I like to, I guess that would describe something that, I mean, maybe you can apply to this, but it's the idea of closure.
Oh, let's give John a second to come back in. Wi-Fi is always tricky wherever we are, even in 2025. I see him coming back right now.
Gestalt theory I incorporate the idea of, am I here?
Yes, we've got you.
Okay, good. I think I'm here, but All right. So the idea of Gestalt incorporated in my work is mainly with closure. So I kind of put the elements together and edit down so it's not quite a complete image. I allow the viewer's mind to sort of fill in and complete the picture. And I don't know if it's clear so much in this piece, except for maybe if you're thinking about the moment before it drops, you know. So, but in a lot of my other work, I kind of use that a visual aspect to the incompleteness to allow the viewer's mind to sort of fill in and fill in the gaps and complete the whole work. So I like the idea of, I had a painting teacher describe how the difference between illustration and painting is that illustration answers questions and painting raises questions. So it's sort of that kind of aspect of leaving something open for the viewer to sort of fill in and complete. But the challenge is to, I guess, to try to make it so it's not completely unclear, you know, so it's too vague. It's got to hold the interest of the viewer and make them look at it longer or as long as possible without, you know, being too vague and out there, so they'll lose interest.
So I know that you've received a ton of different grants, Chip, in your work, like the Illinois Arts Council, there's a governor's exchange program, and you had a travel grant even from Fiji Hunt. Can you talk to us about maybe one of your most memorable grant-funded project is that you've ever completed?
The audio was breaking up a little bit. Can you repeat that?
You've received a ton of grant awards from like the Illinois Arts Council, from the Governor's Exchange Program, from Fiji Hunt. Do you remember if there's one particularly memorable grant project that you completed?
One project that what? Sorry.
A grant project that you did.
Yeah, I mean, I did in Illinois here, they have the Illinois Arts Council, and the city of Chicago has some grants too. I used some for travel. I used to teach holography, making real holograms, you know, with traditional lasers and holographic film.
Oh no! Let's give John a second to come back in. Here he comes.
Okay.
There you go.
Am I here?
Holographic
Okay.
film. Mm-hmm.
So, but I've been able to secure some grants to finish some projects for physical pieces, such as I did a sculpture called Universe, which also uses optics and reflections. It's kind of a life-size figure mounted on a radio tower that reflects. It's sort of a mirror ball effect, like a disco mirror ball effect, only the reflections are little images of the figure itself. So it's sort of a play on that. I was able to get some grant money for that from the Illinois Arts Council, and it's almost an art form in itself to try to get grants in grant writing. So I've been fortunate in some cases, and it's one of those things you just got to keep working on. But it's a great way to be able to realize projects that you can't or might not be able to like fund on your own. So.
Well, if you can hear me well, I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
I know you've done some work that's really static and some work that's really kinetic. And what is it about the subject matter for Drop that lent itself to being a static piece for you?
I think when the viewer notices or realizes the drop, that it's just a magnifying glass kind of thing. So as you move it, the imagery inside the drop moves as well. I do a lot of three-dimensional work where it sort of can be considered kinetic, even though it is static. It relies on the viewer's movement around the piece.
We know to hang for this. Give it just a second.
So, sorry, my connection's not the best, but anyway, I guess with drop is, yeah, the main thing to make it somewhat kinetic, I guess, would be the movement of the viewer around the piece to see the changing imagery within the actual dewdrop.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you.
Is that a good answer to your question? Okay.
That's a great answer. And thank you for sharing your time and your inspiration and your piece with us. And we'll bring you back in a little bit for some other Q&A that we received from some of our viewers. So again, that's John E. Bannon out of Chicago, Illinois with Drop. Next up, let's take a look at Blue Mulberry from Lionel T. Dean.
Is Blue Mulberry by Lionel Dean of London, the UK. What's really fun about this 8-foot tall, fluid, textured structure is that it was completely designed using computer-assisted design or CAD programming. And after it was designed through CAD, the artist Lionel had it 3D printed with recycled plastic. So this particular sculpture, while it is beautiful and dynamic, and I'm loving the motion and the movement that's throughout it, is also really about the intersection between technology and traditional art making. So we can see here how tech and 3D printing and modern day techniques can really support an age-old art form of sculpture. So this is Blue Mulberry by Lionel Dean of London.
Lionel, thanks for being here with us today. I'm so excited to speak with you about Blue Mulberry. Tell us a little bit about this piece and what inspired it.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to International Sculpture Day, and thank you for joining. This piece, well, all my work really is about growth and development. So my pieces exist in two forms. There's the physical piece, but behind that, there's a virtual design. And the virtual design is able to change and evolve over time. And that's why pieces, I have to imagine how they started out and how they developed. So for instance, I imagine this piece as a living organism. So each of the leaves of that piece, if you imagine, has some sort of design code behind it, but for every time I add one of those leaves to the piece, it's slightly different than the time before, which gives it that natural organic feel.
That's great. So I know that you've been doing this work that's exploring the intersection between digital design and manufacturing. And what do you find that you can do differently with this approach than you would be able to do like by hand in an analog style?
There are many aspects to it, but most of all, it's the editing. It's like we're all typically, we can edit documents now, and we're used to copying and pasting and re-editing things, whereas before, once upon a time, we were writing everything out by hand in longhand, which would take an awful lot of time. So it's a similar benefit to that, but also, you're not looking at this piece in the real world. You can zoom right into tiny spaces and zoom right out again, and you can push and pull things without any physicality. So you don't have any material physicality to the piece. So you can do things that are totally unnatural. At the same time, you've got to keep in mind that this is going to be made in the real world, and you still have to have that material knowledge, but you can inhabit these two worlds.
Absolutely. So I know that some of your pieces are really quite abstract, and then one of your other pieces, like Holy Ghost, is a piece that's built on an existing object like a chair. So like, which do you prefer? Does each approach have a different artistic purpose?
I came from a design background, so it was natural to me when I studied researching this technique as part of a PhD thesis, and it was natural for me to work on the pieces that were my bread and butter at the time. But really, I've always been on the fringe of somewhere between art and design. And so it's nice for me to escape purely into art for the pieces. And if I'm honest, that's my preference.
Very good. I hear that. Now, I know you've also done some work in jewelry. And how do you approach more small pieces differently than you would from a large scale sculpture?
Yeah, it's a really tricky thing, because I remember when I first got involved with 3D printing, one of my sponsors was promoting the idea that the designer created the piece and then they would decide what scale it should be. And that really doesn't work. As a creative, you really have to understand how physically big your piece is. So for me, it's critical to understand the physicality and the size of what you're working with, and which is quite tricky when you're working virtually. And sometimes it is a bit of a surprise when you produce that piece digitally and then you get it either sent it or you see it come off a machine and it's, oh, this is what it's like in real life. You know, so there is still that disconnect. It's something that's quite hard to navigate and manage.
Absolutely. Now, for Blue Mulberry, is it like a standalone piece, or is it part of an overall collection or exhibition with a through theme or thesis?
Well, the theme is common to all my work, but it is a standalone piece. And it's the biggest piece I've produced to date, and having gone through that process, I'm not sure I want to repeat that one exactly. It was quite hard work.
I understand completely. Well, thank you, Lionel, for sharing with us Blue Mulberry and a little bit about your process. We'll come back to you for some more Q&A a little bit later on in the program.
Thank you.
And so I think we have with us again, if we can get him back up on screen, Maxwell Hartley, our first artist from Melt Piece, who we lost due to some connectivity issues. So let's see if we can get Maxwell back up on here with us and see if he can hear us. Maxwell, do we have you?
I hear you loud and clear.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your patience and resilience with technology. It is always a thing. But thank you so much for bringing Melt Piece to this exhibition. Our viewers have already seen the video package around your piece and what it looks like, and I'd love to hear from you about your thoughts behind creating.
There we go. Hello?
Yep. Can you talk to us a little bit about Melt Piece?
Absolutely. So, can you hear me?
A little bit. You might need to get closer to the microphone.
I'm getting a lot of static here. Goodness. Oh my gosh, why now?
When you're speaking, we can hear you just fine. So keep on, push through it.
Okay. So, Melt Piece started as a way to use leftover material, basically. I had a lot of extra resin because I was working for a fabrication studio in New York where we made furniture. We made large slabs with this urethane resin material. So we made big rectangular blocks for furniture, for designers, architects, and other artists. So I was trying to find a way to stretch out this material that I had, and I figured making a mold to basically represent something that was melting, you know, like I'm from Florida, but I'm living in New York. So I have this like feeling of heat and like transition between states, right? So it's cold, it's hot. How do you represent the feeling of moving between these states? Can you hear me? It's really loud and staticky. I'm sorry. Okay. So I was also working with a lot of molds. So I like creating molds that basically are reverse engineered. So a lot of sculptors will make their piece in clay or wax, and then they make a mold around it so they can replicate their work. But I was making molds that create the piece. So you're building a mold and you're pouring fluid into the mold to produce the piece for the first time. So I was reverse engineering my artwork, basically.
Is that why you call yourself a plastic surgeon?
Yeah, that's kind of a funny joke that just came about from Instagram. You know, they have when you're a professional on Instagram, they give you like choices of like how to represent yourself, and plastic surgeon was one of them, and I just felt that represented me well.
Fantastic. So I know that, you know, one of our more local artists in this exhibition this year at our opening, you had like this huge posse of friends and artists and supporters that came. What does it feel like to have them be able to witness your piece in this exhibit?
That was really important to me because, again, like when I lived in New York, I was away from my friends and family, but I moved there to be like more integrated with the art world and go to museums and galleries and such. But moving back to Orlando was important so I could be closer to my friends and family. So having the work exhibited in Orlando in a place where all of my posse, as you say, could visit and come through was extremely important to me and very gratifying.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your work and your posse and your plastic surgery with us in this piece. We'll bring you back in just a moment for some other Q&A as well. It's a big undertaking every year having the Sculpture on the Lawn exhibition. Of course, we have 4 pieces that are up every year for an entirety of a year. And then in one day, they come down and the next year's sculptures are up. So let's take a look at a time-lapse video of that installation day that happened this year. So you can see here the admin center for Orange County in downtown Orlando. It's the front lawn, a whole number of trucks and forklifts and cranes and pickups that are one by one removing the 2024 sculptures and replacing them with the 2025. You'll notice one of these concrete pads is sadly empty. Lionel's Blue Mulberry, unfortunately, took a little longer to get to us due to some customs paperwork. It did get in there and end up getting installed, but unfortunately missed this video. And then you can see here what these pieces look like at night. Again, about 10,000 viewers walk past this exhibit every single day right in downtown Orlando, and we're so grateful to have it. So now let's bring everybody back up on screen and we're going to do some group Q&A. I have some questions that have been coming in that I'm taking a look at here on email, so forgive me if I do one of these. But we've got some questions here, so let's see. My first one, Jeb, is for you. It's for Johnny Bannon. It says, how many drops are there, or is this the only one?
Since it was I was able to use a mold in the process, and so I was able to make it's an addition of 5, basically, to answer your question. So yeah, there's 4 others out there.
That's cool. Is this one your favorite?
They're slightly different. The bases, the grass and the actual blade of grass. The actual blade of grass. It's slightly different in each one, as well as the base, the mounting, where it's held to the ground is also varies in each one. But since the dewdrop was made from a mold, I wanted to get the most out of that because it's an expensive process. So that's what I went with. So in addition.
Very cool. So Maxwell, you're also doing work with resin. Do you find it to be, I know you started with leftover material, but is it the most expensive part of your process is having to deal with that material as well?
Yeah, definitely. It becomes very expensive, especially when you make mistakes. So during the process of creating my mold, I had several leaks, which at one point I had like $2,000 worth of resin pour out on the floor that was non-retrievable, and I had to wait 6 months to save up the money to try again, basically.
How does one clean up spilled resin from your studio space?
You just wait for it to harden and then scrape it up.
John, did you have any spills in making of drop?
Not too much. I actually had a friend who had all the equipment to do the casting, because it requires, it's not just like pouring as Maxwell knows, it's not just simply pouring 2 parts together. It's actually.
Oh no, John's gonna have to come back. I know there's a process where you sort of set it and get all the air bubbles out of the resin, right?
Sorry. Yeah, it's you need special equipment like a pressure pot, basically, that squeezes all the air bubbles out. And so I went to a specialist for that. A friend of mine has all that kind of equipment. But I made the positive, the actual mold that was, I made the actual drop out of plaster first, and then I was able to make a mold from that and then cast it from there. So
Great. While we're on the subject of drop, we got a question here that came in that what led you to choose this particular scale instead of half that or twice that or something in between?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, what for drop? What led you to choose this particular scale for the blade of grass and the drop as opposed to like half that or twice as big? Like, why did you settle on the size that you did?
Good question. I just thought I thought it'd be large enough to look up to and through, sort of like. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. It just felt right. You know, like I wanted to make it large enough to be able to see, you know, through the drop, and just kind of. It just felt right. Like as far as, you know, like I could make it. I might have been limited to the materials and that sort of thing, but I guess I just wanted it large enough to make you feel clearly that you are like a lot smaller, and to look up to it. And I like, and a lot of my work, I try to just stick to the actual aesthetics of just kind of a goal of mine is to try to make the viewers eye move. So you want to look up and down and left and right, that sort of thing. So I just figured it would be, it's twice my height. It's about 12 feet tall. And, you know, so that kind of, it takes care of that aspect of making you look up at something instead of just, you know, straight on or that kind of thing. So yeah, that's a good question. I guess it just seemed to just feel right. You know, I want it large enough to get the optics effect to it. So
yeah, great. All right, our next one is for Lionel. How long does it take you to design, and then how long does it take to print a piece the size of Blue Mulberry? Oh, Lionel, can you hear us?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit there. How long did it take to design? Yeah, I can
and
hear
then
you.
How long did it take?
How long did it take to design was the first part of the question. Okay, to design, it's around 3 months, I would say. I mean, you're not always working on the same design work the whole time, so it's not like full time for 3 months, but it's over a 3-month period. And then to print, it's about, I would say 12 weeks, pretty much, as a little print farm of printers. You know, the open source printers that I built myself, the 0.5 meter, I think 24, 26 inches cubic size the prints. So it's assembled from numerous prints built in one. It's not printed in one.
Well, I know technology has been driving us all a little crazy so far this afternoon on this call, but in the case of your work, Lionel, it really creates some really wonderful outcomes. So I love that you're doing it and that you're in that space. We've got a question for everyone, so feel free to kind of jump in as you feel ready if you have an answer for this. What other mediums are you experimenting with or would you like to try?
Well, I like to use whatever the idea calls for. So sometimes I'll do video work, and but I generally right now I'm doing fabricated metal. But I like to incorporate all the, you know, I figure there's a relationship with my other work as far as the basics of composition, and I mentioned earlier about just having your eye move, make the viewer's eye want to move and look at all aspects of it, to move around the piece, and with optics. So that could change as far as media, but right now I'm working with a lot of fabricated metal, as in like steel, stainless steel, and welded bronze.
Well, Maxwell, Lionel, any other mediums you always wanted to try or you're playing with right now?
Metal is, I've done a lot of work with, as you mentioned in your earlier questions, I've done a lot of jewelry work, and so printing in metal is really exciting for me, but the size is a real challenge there. Both the printing and the cost of the printing. So it's a frustration to me really that I'm kind of limited in size with the metal work, and I'm hoping that will change as the technology evolves over time.
Maxwell, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, definitely. I come from a woodworking background, and part of that is dealing with trees. So at my home in DeLand, Florida, last year, we had a hurricane come through and knock down a large live oak tree in my backyard. The entire tree just got like leveled, roots fully exposed. But when you see that happen, you recognize this is a valuable material. It's an asset to work with. So I found like a tree removal specialist who came to like clear the tree from my yard, but I had them like make segments that were appropriate for slabbing. So we took the trunk and several of the large branches to a mill. So they cut the tree into like big slabs. So they're ready to be worked with hand tools and saws and whatnot. So we cut the slabs and then took them to a kiln and had the boards air dried in a kiln for 5 weeks. So recently I just picked up like 2 tons worth of live oak that I have in my studio now that I'm going to be making furniture and all kinds of different sculptures with over the next year or two.
That's great. Wonderful. Thank you for that. I've got another question for all of the artists. How do the artists feel that their work either fits in or complements or contrasts with the other sculptures in this exhibition in this location? So how are all your pieces playing off one another, and what do you think about that?
Obviously, I'm really excited with John's piece and the drop having a similar thread with the resin. I really like the Manuel's piece with the refraction. They all really scatter light in a very interesting way.
I'd agree.
Yeah, and speaking of light, when you see these lit at night, the light when they're lit is incredible after dark, and they do complement each other very well, I feel.
One through line that I noticed, Maxwell, you do a lot of work with sort of items from nature and natural elements and thinking about conservation of resources. John's piece, Drop, is a moment that exists in nature. Lionel's piece is 3D printed using recycled plastic technology. And then there is one last video that we can show here in just a moment of the artist that wasn't able to be with us today, Compostella, which is a sort of origami study of a seashell. So even though this was not an Earth Month or Earth Day or environmental curated exhibit, it does seem that all of the pieces have a through line of sort of environmental concerns and focus in the natural world. And you know what? Let's go ahead and do that right now,
this is
actually.
Manuel Ferrero Badia's Compostella, a fractal study of a shell. It's based on origami studies, and these broken steel panes really change the shape and how it appears based on sunlight and where you're standing to view it. What's really cool about this piece, which originated in A Coruña, Spain, is when you take a seashell and break it down to its most simplest and base of forms, this fractal shape is the result. So a really cool piece of nature, really broken down to its core, to its foundation, this fractal study of a shell. Compostella by Manuel Ferrero Badia of Spain.
So do you all see that? Do you see that sort of natural through line between the pieces that are up on the lawn? That's great. We got another question that came in, but I can answer that one, which is, are the pieces for sale? And yes, they are. So one by one, I would love each of you to sort of tell our viewers where they can go to find out more about you, either online or to make an inquiry to purchase, should they fall in love with the piece or one of your other works. Maxwell, let's start off with you.
Sure. My main online presence is via Instagram. My handle is Moxvell, Moxvell. I post all sorts of aspects of my life, whether it's art, skateboarding, music, anything related. It's all going to be on my Instagram.
Great. Go to Instagram if you fall in love with Meltpiece. What if you fall in love with Drop? John, how can we connect with you online? If you have an online studio or shop space or social media presence, how can folks connect and make a purchase of one of your pieces?
They could call me directly or just look at I have a website at johnebannon.com, JOHNEBANNON. Most of my latest stuff, I also am on Instagram, and that's BAN_NONART. So it's Ban Non-Art. So it's kind of a play on words, but
it's kind of a play on words, but we're not banning you, John, even though your internet's coming in and out. That is all right. We've still got you. Lionel, how about you? Where can folks make an inquiry about Blue Mulberry or any one of the pieces of jewelry or sculpture work that you do?
Sure. Well, my studio is called Future Factories. Future Factories is one word. So the website is futurefactories.com. That's in one word. I'm also on Instagram, Future Factories Studio. Or if all else fails, just Google my name. Fortunately, I've got quite an unusual name, so you'll find me. If you Google my name in 3D printing or 3D printed art, you'll find me.
Very cool. Well, hey, I would like to thank each and every one of you, everybody that submitted questions, for engaging with, participating in our celebration of International Sculpture Day here in Orange County. All of these pieces are on the lawn at the Administration Center through mid-January of 2026. You've got plenty of time to come interact with them. Come see them at different times of day, see how the light plays off of them, see how the people are interacting with them. And then if you fall in love with one, they're available in mid-January 2026 for you to bring home. So any last parting words from any of our artists? I want to give you guys the last moment on the floor.
thank you. Happy International Sculpture Day,
thank
everybody.
you. Oh, carry on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just thank you to Orange County for supporting this.
Absolutely. Sculpture forever. Happy International Sculpture Day. Happy International Sculpture Day to all of you that are out observing and celebrating. And thank you so much for taking part of this. We hope to see you around some more. I hope you all have a great day. Goodbye.
You too.
Thank you.
See ya.